Rated mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. Broadcasting from the Big Peach of Atlanta, Georgia. A show unfiltered, unscripted, raw. The Patriot Angle Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to another edition to Unfiltered with Michael Gardner here. This is the Patriot Angle Podcast. Today, joining us once again, is Jimmy Dev out of New Jersey. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, what's up, Michael? Thanks for having me back on. Thought the last time I was on was pretty cool. A lot of great content comes out of this podcast. So,
without a doubt.
If you guys are new to this, log in. Every time we put something out, you'll learn something new. But I'm doing all right over here. We're back to a little bit of cold. It was a little bit warmer out the past couple of days. Now we're back down to the 20s. But other than that, I take it one day at a time.
That's good, man. You got to take life one day at a time. And Speaking about life, Jimmy, I seen something earlier today that kind of relates to what we were just saying just now. From the time you're born to the time you're about 18 years old, you're starring in your own movie, pretty much. You make life to what it is. You are playing that role in that movie until you're about 18 years old. Then you become the director, and then you direct the rest of the movie. That's how I see life,
No, I definitely agree with that. That's a good analogy on it. But sometimes I feel like, are we in control of it? Once you hit 18, legally, the state says you're in control of your own life. But I don't think at 18, I didn't really know much. I think I want to say in my 30s, I have more of an understanding. I do think that guidance. I think that guidance should be. We should have a lot more guidance up until that age. In my opinion, I think it would help out a lot.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. Today we're going to talk about Jimmy. I want to get into the recap of yesterday's Super Bowl between the Bengals and the Rams, right?
I thought it was a great game. I thought it was a good game.
I got to see a little bit of it. I got to see bits and pieces of it. I had to work actually. But I seen bits and pieces of it. I seen a little bit of the halftime show. And some of it I seen during the halftime show. I was like, what? Do you kind of see what I'm talking about here, where I'm getting from, with the halftime show? A lot of people on social media are basically criticizing what went on during the halftime show.
Yeah, are we talking about the knee, or are we talking about other aspects of the performance?
Well, I'm just talking about everything in general. There was a lot of people that felt that the halftime show basically was a little bit of Hollywood, which, every halftime show is. I don't understand what they're arguing about that. And a lot of it, they're saying they orchestrated a lot of the of what's going on today, the cancel culture. Do you see any of that?
Well, I think it's always very odd when I see halftime shows, and not to get too crazy into any type of conspiracy, but they're always set up in a very weird, kind of ritualistic type of performance. Whether it be the colors, whether it be the movements. Does it feed into cancel culture? I don't know. You know, I do think it's kind of funny though that these individuals are now on the halftime show when in their prime of when they were making music, they were too controversial to be in it in the first place.
Right.
So, you know, I wouldn't say it was the best halftime show I've ever seen. I mean, yeah, it is. It is just a big show. Sorry, I got a phone ringing in the background. I apologize.
No, you're good.
But the as far as the knee, right? I mean, that was probably the biggest controversy of the night. You know, Eminem taking the knee, and there's allegations that the NFL was like, basically, we don't want to see it. Then it happened. I'm not really surprised with who they picked. I mean, there's really nobody else. There's not many people to pick from anymore. If you really think about it, music isn't really. I don't think I wouldn't say music's at its pinnacle. You know, so
Yeah. But did you notice who took that knee?
yeah. Well, I mean, listen, that was definitely orchestrated.
I
Let's
mean,
not.
he
Yeah,
pretty much made that like public. He said he was going to do it, and he did it. I mean,
but I'm not surprised. This is a guy who has made millions. He has made himself a millionaire off of African American culture, hip hop. So I'm not really surprised that he did it. His viewpoints on politics have always been polarized left to a degree.
yeah,
So, you know, him pulling that stunt, I don't see it as a big deal. Of course it's orchestrated. You have you know, I hate to say it, but you have the white guy come out last and he's the one to do it. You know,
yeah,
it's trying to send a message, but you know, whether or not how I feel personally about it, I don't care as much. Take all the knees you want. You know, it doesn't
yeah,
bother me. It's more of what goes on, you know, after that, which is what makes things crazy. Like when we had it, you know, last year over Minnesota and stuff like that. But
oh yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt. I mean, are we going to get that? That that whole NFL taking a knee type of saga come back. With Kaepernick and you know, I mean, is it going to come back? Do you think it's going to come back, or you think it's just they did it for the Super Bowl? It's all a big political type of stage, so to speak.
well, yeah, will it make a comeback? Possibly. Looking into the news, I've seen a lot of different things out there. I mean, the constant, you know, we talked about it last time, the constant bombardment from CNN with Joe Rogan, the all out war they're having,
Right.
uh, you know, with cancel culture, with woke culture. Not surprised that what took place at the halftime show did. And they want to try to make it a little bit more subtle, right? So that's why they did it real quick. It's over.
Right.
Everybody's talking about it. But the news, I mean, I think the news is pumping up again. A couple stories, you know, they're always gonna play up the police brutality on African Americans in the U.S. People get killed by police every day making stupid decisions. This is
Oh,
always going to be a thing. The news knows it's a great you know, great ratings for them, and they're going to keep playing it up. Do I think it's all connected? Sure,
yeah.
absolutely. Do I think the news is connected with what legislation happens? Of course, because you don't see anything about the Canadian truckers really. You know,
No, no, you don't. Yeah, that's and you mentioned the mainstream media. I mean, they're going to pick their agendas, what works for them. You know what I mean? Because by the end of the day, whatever sells, pretty much sells, right? I mean, are they going to stick on this whole NFL story? Sure. Are they going to make bias, statements about, this? I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but in the NFL now, they just literally made this ruling quite recently with the Rooney Rule. I don't know if you know what that is, but
no, I do not. I'm not up on that.
basically the Rooney Rule is basically this rule now that the NFL and I'm sure I think other leagues such as Major League Baseball and other leagues here in the country, they have to comply with this Rooney Rule. And what the Rooney Rule is basically they have to basically interview so many black athletes before they interview a white athlete. So we've
Oh,
seen the
affirmative
Rooney Rule.
action.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen the Rooney Rule basically take place yesterday during the Super Bowl. If you paid close attention to some of the interviews, did you notice how they were interviewing the black athletes first before they would interview a white athlete?
Yeah, I did notice it, but
Yeah,
I wasn't up on a Rooney Rule. I'm going to be honest with you on that one.
yeah.
I did notice it, but you know, I don't think anyone, I don't think a lot of people will notice that as much, which was a good point that you brought up, so people kind of have a better understanding. And I think most people won't really understand it as much due to the fact that the league is predominantly African American. So
Yeah.
um, I didn't know that it was such a big ordeal that, people felt like, oh, I'm not getting interviewed. I mean, a lot of very successful people in the league now, and obviously the people with the best athleticism, the people that play the best, or the athletes that play the best are going to get interviewed. So I
Yeah.
did I don't know why that has to be a rule. To me, it doesn't really make sense. If you want to talk to the quarterback first and then talk to wide receiver or someone on
Well,
the defensive end, it's I don't know, it's silly, man.
yeah. Well, it's caught a lot of heat with the Republican Party. They've basically touched on the Super Bowl yesterday and on sports alone, with a poll showing that 52% of Republicans show that the NFL needs to stop. Mainly, the NFL needs to stop this Rooney Rule type of criticism and this crap. I mean, they didn't use the word crap, but basically, that's what they're kind of labeling it as, crap. Where if you're going to use the Rooney Rule and you're going to comply to it and imply to the sport and the league, you're basically creating more of a division between white and black athletes across all boards. Whether it's the NFL, the Major League Baseball, the NBA, everything. You're creating more division in the league. So what you're doing is when you create more division in the leagues, you're bringing in more politics and more of that cancel culture crap, into sports, which that needs to be separated. Jimmy, you got to separate, politics and sports. You can't have them together. They just don't mesh well, you know?
Well, that's what you get when you live in the age of, so when you think about, when it goes from civil rights, when you think about the feminist movement, rights for women, suffrage, right? It was all about equality. Okay,
Right.
equality. Trying to bring those groups that were uh, dealing with bias and dealing and being profiled and up to the equal level with everybody, so that we'd all be on the level and everybody would have a fair share. The problem
Right.
is now is it's not about equality anymore. It's about inclusiveness and, like you said, woke culture. And what it's doing is it's creating these other groups that are out there that have a voice, that have a large backing. What they want to do is they want to get into a position to now be dominant. It's not about equality. It's taking the whip from one side and handing it over to the other. And I think that's
Oh,
what is
sure.
happening now. And now we're seeing it in, you're seeing it in all aspects of life. You're seeing it in sports. You're seeing it in politics. You're seeing it in the schools. You're seeing it even in the medical field. If you don't have your vaccine, you have a nurse that's like, F that guy. He doesn't have the right to have a bed here. So, I mean,
Right.
that's where it is. It's just more division, which we already have. And it's a perpetual cycle of just chaos, and it's not about equality anymore. They're using these words to condition you, to make you think that, to kind of downplay and dumb down those words and what they were at one time, and
Oh, sure.
slowly incorporating other things. So yeah, when you see things like this where there has to be a policy to interview a certain colored person first before the other, then yeah, it's absolutely, I think now at this point in time, it's ridiculous, because I think that this country has been getting better. I think that people, that companies are more inclusive. has there been, it's been bad for a lot of people. It's been bad for a lot of different groups. I get it. I'm not saying that, and I can't speak from a certain position because I'm not of a certain color or gender or whatnot. But I know a lot of people that they work hard or they play hard and they get where they want, and that doesn't seem to be a problem for them.
Well, that brings me on to my next point, and this might be a touching, a topic, but I mean, I love to get people's opinions and views and thoughts on it. We're in the month of February, right? So this is Black History Month. I mean, do you think by having a month for blacks, is that pretty much honoring them, or is that putting more of a displacement on
them? Is it honoring or putting more of a displacement? I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to that one. I'd have I'd have to think about it a little bit more and be able to get back to you on that. So this way I don't word it incorrectly.
Right. The reason why I say that is because the times we live in, I mean, with my opinion, and I can safely say this without, offending anybody or creating racism through the show here, because certainly I don't want to do that, but I want to make it, a little bit easy and comfortable on saying this. In my honest opinion, I think it is a lot worse now than it was, say, 20, 30 years ago. And the reason why I say that is because, when you have a month, a separate month, that's, basically, honoring black individuals, right? And the history between black Americans and stuff like that. I think it separates our culture as a country more now and dividing us more now than ever. And a lot of people may agree or disagree with me on this, but I think because of the times we're in, Jimmy, I think it's creating more division. You know what I mean? I don't think we should have a month for blacks and I can go for a month for white individuals. I don't think we should have a month, for anything. I think we should honor each other as one whole, as Americans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, and I've seen many clips of African American celebrities kind of talk about that, right? Where they don't want to have a Black History Month. Now,
yeah,
I think Black History Month was given was made a thing due to the fact that maybe there wasn't as much of a highlight on Black historical figures, and I could say that growing up, there probably wasn't.
no.
I think now it should be, like you said, rolled into the into American history, because that's what it is. And I think that people don't understand is that everybody played their part. The problem I have more, I don't think I have a problem with Black History Month. I have a problem with putting certain things on a pedestal and not. You have to take the good and the bad. We're a relatively new country to the world when you think about it in time, right?
We're still a young country at heart.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. We're still a young country at heart. We're still, within the last couple of 100 years, we're still young compared to other countries. But even though we're still young, Jimmy, we are so more advanced as a young country compared to countries that are much older than us, so.
Yeah, no, and that's the point. The point is that if you look at it, statistically, most people in the United States are wealthier than most people in the world. And I know
Right.
that some people don't understand that. So we're doing pretty good here. So the problem is that, most of the country's history is of white European descent. There should be no reason why we need to tear down those figures and tear down that history and hide it because people are offended. It is what it is. That's how this country came to what it is right now. The founding fathers, they may have not have been the most equal individuals, right? I mean, but that's what it is, and we can't hide from it, you
Yeah,
know.
we
And
we definitely can't hide from it. It's like you mentioned a point there. These four founding fathers: George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, right? The- Uh, just the name, just a few of those four men in that group. They were probably not the most popular or the most perfect individuals, or uh, they may have not shown great leadership in that time frame, but you know, mark it for what it is. If it wasn't for leadership such as Abraham Lincoln, can you imagine what? And I'm not. Please, folks, if you're listening to the show, little later on, if when it gets formatted into Spotify, Google, and Apple on the audio version, I'm not. I'm not trying to create hate or any type of division here. But can you imagine what our country would be like today if he didn't pass that law back then, the proclamation, right? If he didn't pass that, I mean, can you imagine what it would be like? Oh my God, I think it would be a lot worse than it is now. Definitely.
but look at it like this: the country itself, in a very small time frame. Look at where we've come from. I
Oh, sure.
understand. I mean, the founding fathers had a vision. The Constitution was the law of the land. You have the Bill of Rights. Okay, those should be canon here, and people, they don't respect it anymore. But these founding fathers had a vision of what it was going to look like and what they wanted to do. We got
What
away from we got away from England. We got away from the central banking system, and this country flourished. People had hardships here. People weren't treated right. But look at where we've come. We've come from a place where people, you know, were forced. They we had slavery, and 100 years later, we have you know people of that lineage millionaires now.
Oh yeah,
Scientists,
sure.
scientists, PhDs. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay it. Please don't get me wrong. But if we look at it from how young this country is, we've come a long way in such a small period of
Right.
time that
But
we no longer have any hardships. So most of the things that we fight and argue about are first world problems, and that's the issue. They're all intellectual issues that we're trying to fight about when we have no more hardships in front of us, which is going to in turn then create hard times again.
here's the problem here. Like the reason why we have all these problems. I mean, we don't have to spin the wheels here on the show. The reason why we have all the problems here is it's being influenced constantly by mainstream media. I've been saying it from the get-go, Jimmy, that they are the true virus, the enemy of this country. Because you know they love to create it. I remember in a time where we actually had positive news. You flip the dial on and you get the weather, you get the local news, you get the world news, you get all that. You didn't get negativity. You didn't get, I wonder how much more baffling Donald Trump's going to say at his rally tonight, or you didn't get all that crap. There's so much like little like what the hell they used to call it back in the day. Little comments. There you go. Small talk. So much little small talk, side comments being added into these news press conferences or these shows, right? There should be no need for that. And if we can eliminate that, we can flourish as a country. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, the media causes a lot of the division we have now. The media itself is the fourth branch of the government. In a
Yeah.
sense, that's always been the saying. Whoever is, look who you have in the office right now. If you mean to
Yeah.
tell me that there's no bias when the news is being reported, there's no journalism. There's an editor. There's somebody who says this is what we're going to talk about and this is what we're not going to talk about. And I seen a
Yeah.
clip of when they put up maybe like 200 news feeds for the day. They were saying the same. They were regurgitating the same kind of garbage. There's very little news outlets that will report it like it is. And what happens is even when it comes to alternative media, when they do start getting bigger and more of an audience, they flip the script because they sell out for money. So it's
Yeah.
very hard for you to get an unbiased, news delivery fed to you.
And you notice how they piggyback, off of one another. CNN will say something with that topic, and then there goes MSNBC, NBC, Fox News. They all piggyback off the same thing. It's like, let's use for example, you mentioned earlier in the show with the Canadian truckers, where, this could be an insurrection. There looks like there's a massive insurrection coming across the border where they're causing chaos and destruction. And what? Come again? Insurrection? Come on.
Well, they're gonna keep using that word. Like I said, what they do is it's propaganda. If they constantly say the word, right? If the word constantly keeps coming out of the idiot tube, right? Which a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, the idiot tube.
You're going to believe that what's going on is starting to become true. So if somebody, the more they preach it to you, the more you start believing it. So then all of a sudden this word insurrection lives in your head. I've never heard anyone use insurrection. I've never heard anyone use coup really as much as they do now. Now, there shouldn't be any kind of difference in how come in Minnesota they were being reported as friendly protesters, and then all of a sudden now truckers are being reported as insurrectionists and terrorists and traitors.
Yeah. I've said that many times on the podcast here, like where was the mainstream media when Black Lives Matter and Antifa, the so-called friendly protesters, were burning up police cars in Atlanta, Georgia, causing destruction out in Seattle, Washington. Every major city in this country, you would see fires, you would see looting, you would see businesses being destroyed, you would see this and that. And where was the mainstream media? They have their First Amendment rights. And then when you see Canadian truckers fighting for their freedom because they don't want to get a forced vaccine, right? So they can have their jobs. You have Prime Minister Trudeau, right? Am I pronouncing his name right? I can never pronounce his damn name right, but Trudeau, right? That's what I call him. Saying, if you block these roads, we are going to have you charged. We are going to have you this and that. And it's not going to look good on your record because as a CDL driver, you will lose your license. What?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I'm actually sorry to butt in. I'm actually experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties real quick. I'm not hearing you as clear, and I think you're hearing me, so I do apologize.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine. I think it may be the broadcast a little bit probably. Are you having some bad weather up in New Jersey or?
No, but you're coming in almost robotic at this point. So we're not having bad weather right now, but it's almost
okay. Has it cleared up a little bit now or?
No, it's still there. You think I could hop off and jump back on?
Yeah, not a problem. All right, guys, what you're hearing here is Jimmy Dev having a little audio problems here on his end. But we're talking about, just literally what's going on in this country and, how we can improve this country. Are we going to make this country great again? Are we going to live in the past and not learn? Who knows? But yeah, Jimmy Dev on the podcast here. Hey, Jimmy, you
I'm
back with
back.
us?
Yeah, I'm back. I'm good now. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Oh, okay. It might have been a little glitch. You get them from time to time. Like I said, it's being broadcasted live here on YouTube, which I call ScrewTube. So they're probably doing a little monitoring, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is what it is. So I'm back
You
on.
know,
What was
you know.
yeah, so yeah, my last point was we were talking about obviously the media, and I think one good thing that I will encourage everyone, and no matter what side you're on, whoever's listening, right, is that
Right,
you have to still watch mainstream media to see what majority of the population is listening to, and then you
right.
search for your alternative sources. This way, you kind of understand the mindset of who you're talking to before you say anything.
Oh,
That's
without a doubt, without a doubt. But, like, should we stop fighting for what we believe in? I mean, should we bend the knee to, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook and, the rest of the big tech giants? I mean, if we do that, they win, we lose. You know what I mean? I mean, I know
yeah,
it's
no,
not
you
about,
shouldn't. You shouldn't.
yeah, I know it's not about, like, being that little 5-year-old saying, "Oh, Tommy got the red ball, but I really wanted the red ball. You gave me the blue." I know it's not about that. But I mean, it's about equalness, fairness. This is America. This is not like, like I don't like your opinion, so I'm just going to block you. Like, is that what we become as a nation? Seriously, you know?
Well, what the media is wanting to portray to you is that freedom of speech is no good. Freedom of speech
Yeah.
is bad. Words are bad, and we need to make them a crime if you say something and it's taken out of context, right? Given even with the Joe Rogan drama going on, do I,
Oh, yeah.
do I think that it's in your best interest to go around saying certain things when you're a public, when you're a public figure or personality? No, it's dumb. Let's face it. We live in a time now, like we've been saying, cancel culture, where people are going to dig up everything and anything on you. So I think the big issue is that they want you to understand that freedom of speech is the next thing that they will come for, and they'll come for it in a more subtle approach by legislation and putting pressure on you with cancel culture. And that's a huge problem. It's only a matter of time before you have to hide a Bible under your bed before somebody comes in and throws a black bag over your head for having it. Or
There,
it's only
yeah,
a
there,
matter of time.
look at Christianity. That's literally under attack. The big church guy. I forgot his name. The guy out of Tennessee. Oh God, he's all over the place on social media. They're attacking him. Because he was one of the God. I forgot his name. I don't know if you can help me out here, but I think you know who I'm talking about. He's the big church guy out of Tennessee. You constantly see him doing Facebook lives, and he was one of the first pastors in America here that literally said, "You know what? This is Christianity. This is spirituality. The federal government will not shadow our religion, our belief." And they literally said, if you're gonna close the churches down because of this COVID nonsense, then we're just gonna put a tent outside and we'll preach in 20, 30-degree weather. I mean, he's still doing it to this day. They're attacking Christianity, they're attacking religion. You mentioned big names like Joe Rogan. Where Joe Rogan's getting attacked. Christ, he was offered $100 million contract at Rumble. One of Dan Bongino's side companies. I mean, should Joe do it? I don't know. In my personal opinion, I think if he does take the offer, kudos to him. But if he does that, he's basically saying, uh, I have a safety net. So in a way that could make him look bad. You know what I mean? With the whole Spotify thing.
I
That's
don't.
just
I
my
don't think.
personal
I don't
opinion.
think. I don't think he'd take it due to the fact that where he stands right now with so many different ventures that he's into.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the message he's trying to put out there either. I think he apologized for what happened and he's trying to move on with it. I don't think he's like, hey, I'm going to go to a different platform now so I could just say the N word and do what I want.
Yeah.
I think he's more than that. Obviously, I don't know the guy personally, but the
You know,
content that he has put out has been mind changing
yeah.
and it's been life changing for a lot of different people. And a lot of people have
You know,
podcasts
Jimmy,
due to him.
it's more about the N word. You know, it's more they're attacking him more not because of the N word, but they're attacking him on the whole COVID hysteria, nonsense. Because he's a podcast host from a former commentator on UFC, right? Where he basically started from the bottom and worked himself up. And obviously, see, the radical left, the liberal machine, they hate that. When you start low and then you get to yourself at a platform or an avenue of your life, of your career, whether it's podcasting or anything in this world, they hate that. When you become something like a public figure, they hate that. They also hate that he has legitimate doctors and scientists on his show speaking up against this COVID stuff, and they don't want the truth revealed because if they reveal the truth, they're hurting their baby. You know what I mean? They're hurting their COVID. That's their baby. That's their weapon right now. That's the only thing they have for them right now. The Democrats, you know?
Well, another reason people get pissed off about the guy too is he embodies exactly what a lot of these groups hate.
Yeah.
He believes in masculinity. He's an intellectual. He loves MMA. He believes that men should be physical. Men should eat meat. Men should be men. People
There's
hate
no,
that about him. They're
there's
always
nothing
going to
wrong
try
with
to.
that. Hey, to each his own. If he thinks that, then hey, that to each his own, right? If that's his view on men, then so be it. But are we going to attack a guy because he thinks that men should be masculine and with muscles and tattoos and I'm Hulk Hogan, stuff like that? I mean, no, like come on, man. Like if we're going to do that, like I say sometimes, grow up. Go get a life. You know what I mean? Stop attacking people because you know when you do that, you're lowering yourself as a character. That's my own personal view on it. You know what I mean?
Well, Mike Tyson said it one time when he was arguing with the guy from UPN 9. He goes, "You don't like what I'm saying? Turn off your station." And
Exactly,
I
man.
always say that to people.
Yeah, you don't.
If you don't like what you're listening to, shut it off. The problem is with a lot of different content that's being put out is people have an issue with like they want to pick and choose what science is now, or they want to pick and choose what they want to listen to so that they could be in a safe space. He puts out a lot of stuff, and I don't want to just use him, but a lot of people have put out a lot of good stuff. And the
Yeah.
problem is that when people hear things that make them feel uncomfortable, now it's a problem, and now they want to cancel that person out. And that's what I mean by
Well, when
freedom
you
of speech
become big
being
like
at
that,
being
yeah,
a problem.
yeah. When you become big like that, Jimmy, like a figure like that, and you have such a huge following. I mean, the guy has over 400 million of a following on his social media, on Spotify, on everything. When you grow that large, big names, right? Dan Bongino, Michael Savage. Those are probably the three biggest right now on Spotify alone. Bongino, right? Rogan and Savage, right? They come out with a lot of great content and they're constantly banned. I mean, poor Michael Savage, he can't even have his show aired in the United Kingdom because he's banned for life in the United Kingdom because of his content. I mean, hey, whether it's true or not, he made a fortune, Jimmy, off of his content, before podcasting was podcasting. He was on talk radio. He was one of the original greats like Howard Stern. They made a fortune off of that. And look where they are. Best-selling books, this and that. If it works for them, let them be. I mean, at the end of the day, are we arguing about your career? Like I want to make a quick quote and then I'll let you talk a little bit. Like on U.S. Freedom Fighters podcast about a week ago, Jerry, excuse me. Jerry had made a good point. If society was perfect, I would be Brad instead of Jerry. He's basically talking to Jerry, Brad, the founder of U.S. Freedom Fighters. But you know what I mean? Like, if life was perfect, I would be Brad instead of Jerry. You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, life isn't perfect. Life isn't fair, and we have to try to get through this thing one day at a time. And unfortunately, silencing one person because you feel a certain way isn't the right way of doing it. That's not a way that we're going to grow
Yeah.
intellectually or as a people moving forward. When you talk about celebrities that are under attack for certain things, they as long as it's left wing, you could say basically anything you want, which is insane because uh, some of the stuff that comes out of their mouths is total insanity. And most of
Yeah.
those people, like I said, they do not live up to what they talk about.
God, yeah.
Let's take the border. You'll have all these celebrities speak up and say, "We want the borders open. We don't want people to get deported that are here illegally." But they wouldn't want them living next door to them. You know what I mean? That's the problem. So they speak
Yeah.
from they're speaking from up on the hilltop. It's very easy to speak from up on the hilltop, but you don't have
Yeah.
to live with these individuals. You don't have to house these individuals, and you don't have these individuals in your neighborhood committing crimes and using the bathroom all over the place and breaking into your house. You don't have that, so it's
But
very
see, that's
easy
the
for these
prop,
people to
Jimmy.
make that to say
That's
that.
the problem when you have politicians, like you said, looking down from the hilltop, right? Is that what you said? The hilltop? They're looking down like we're little ants, right? Like that's the problem when you have politicians that have been in office for so many years with all this power. It gets to their head, like almost like as if they're a god, so to speak. You know what I mean? Where they're like, you're always wrong and I'm always going to be right. Like, we cannot live like that as a society. If we continue living like this, we're not going to survive. You know?
Well, what I think people need to start realizing is you don't have to go to those people for guidance. They're not there for guidance. The federal government is not there to guide you through life, and they're not there to mediate your problems. That's
Right.
why a lot of people believe in there should be less government and then taxes be cut because there's no reason for them to be in your everyday life. And unfortunately, most people think that that's what they're there for. They're not there for that. They were, the federal government was originally intended to be, they point guns at people, right, military wise, and they collect debt. That was the two main focuses of what the feds did. The states were supposed to run independently, and we were supposed to have a fair share of both at electing a governor, electing a president. Unfortunately, now the game is rigged. We've seen it with the prior election with Trump, with the election being stolen. And I think I could say confident now that it was stolen. Before I had mixed things where I said let's look into certain things, but let's face it, the way things played out, the way the media was used, the way that COVID was used. So a lot of these things, when these things come to fruition, and we're all sitting here looking around at each other, we're to blame at the end of the day for a lot of these different things. And
Did
that's
you?
why,
Yeah. You mentioned Trump there. Did you see him? He was just on. You mentioned the election. Good point. He was just on 60 Minutes. Just the other day. On 60 Minutes, and basically, they were bringing that election up again, and she had said to him, um, like, do you believe, uh, Mr. Trump, that the election was stolen? He says, of course it was. And she says, well, you stop with that nonsense, that you're being a little irrational. He says, irrational? The evidence is right there. Literally day by day, it's coming out. Just earlier today. I believe it was in, what the hell was that in? Wisconsin. More evidence coming out of Wisconsin. The evidence is there, Jimmy. What's going to happen? What happens if we have enough significant evidence from what happened last year in November? What
Well,
happens? Do people get arrested? Do they go? I mean, do people go to federal prison for treason? I mean, what happens?
no, you only go to jail if you were in D.C. on January 6th. Those are the only people. We have political prisoners in this country at this point, and nobody
Apparently,
talks about it. Those are the only people that go to jail. These politicians,
apparently, yeah. I mean,
they don't pay for their crimes.
yeah, you can literally commit uh, a federal charge as a poll worker. That's okay. But you go to storm the Capitol, which I don't think is right. They went a little overboard with going into a federal building. But, they didn't really kind of do anything wrong. They weren't doing all this stuff that the media was saying. Oh, they were killing people, and there was 3 people that died. And, maybe a couple of them, possibly died, from all those people and everything trampling over one another. But the media overhyped it, oh my God, they were trying to destroy our democracy. And what? Come on.
Well, you're gonna get that because it was the perfect setup.
Yeah.
So people that went there, I'm with you, man. I don't blame you for going there and standing up for what you believe in. But let's face it, when you have the Capitol building that has that Senate's meeting that day, there's members of Congress in that building, and there's like 3 police officers. I don't mean to over exaggerate it, but I've seen little league games with more police and EMTs there ready for something. It was an absolute setup. There was nothing there. So you mean to tell me, you set up a huge fence around the White House, right? You set up a second chain link fence. If you were to even touch that thing, you'd have an issue. And you mean to tell me, while members of Congress are meeting, and there's a group of individuals that are upset about how the country's being run, we have now all of a sudden we have 3 or 4 people running the front of the building, or one guy who's just waving people in. Come on, man.
Yeah.
It's not. It was the perfect setup.
They did it for to create this whole so-called political agenda for the ultimate comeback against Donald Trump. They seen a businessman which they completely mocked during his whole basically tenure as president. They even mocked him before he got elected in. When he first announced his presidency, coming down the escalators, right, in Trump Plaza in New York. They're like, oh, he's never gonna become president. Every celebrity bigwig, George Clooney, all the big ones, they even said, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi even said at times, the Late Show host, all of them, he'll never become president. He gets in, and then that's when the flick of the finger, the switch came on. Oh, we have to impeach him. We have to impeach him. For what? He's a businessman that got more done in 4 years, Jimmy, than career politicians and 40 plus years. I mean, and that's what they hated. That's what they hated. They hated that he got so much done in that little bit of time frame, built the wall, built a good economy, brought jobs back that Barack Obama, Barry Obama even said it would take a magic wand to get these factories back in America. He got them back in what, couple months? I mean,
well, you got to go by Biden's numbers. We're creating millions of jobs. People going back to work is not creating millions of jobs.
Oh no,
you put those people out of work, and now they're coming back, and you're trying to take credit for it. Come on.
Yeah, that's delusional Joe. That's the little fairy tale world that he lives in, where he thinks bringing people back to jobs is creating a job. You got to remind Joe, no, Joe, that's literally giving their job back, because you took their job away to begin with all the restrictions, because you thought that closing businesses down would protect people. but in reality, it hurt people more than the actual virus did because it hurt their wallet, Joe. I mean, you literally almost made them go on the streets and think about going to like Bass Pro Shop and buying a tent and go camp out in the woods. You know what I mean? Oh God.
But I like how the focus point certain things when Trump came to the office was that he no longer was being accepted by the black community, that he was against women's rights, that he was this. Guys, everybody knew what Trump was before he came in. He was always, he was a millionaire businessman,
Yeah.
playboy. Everyone loved him. Everybody wanted him to be in their rap videos and do this and have this. And then all of a sudden he gets elected and it's a problem. Let me tell you something. I'd rather vote for a guy who talks about grabbing, women by the what than than a guy who's trying to sniff children or do weird things with them. You know what I mean? Like let's be honest here. Who would you leave?
Exactly.
Who would you leave your kids with?
I would leave him with Donald Trump because not only is he more intelligent, but the guy is freaking successful. Yeah, he talks about, kind of like perverted things about women, but that's normal, right? That's what you call it would be like locker room type talk, right, Jimmy? Like you just mentioned, you got an old man by Joe Biden that's like going up to like kids and like kind of sniffing them. It reminds me of that old guy from like, what was it, Family Guy or something? Hello, guy. Like Herbert or something. That's what Joe reminds me of, Herbert from the Family Guy. I think it was from the Family.
I think it might have been Herbert the pervert.
Yeah. There was a whole meme about Joe Biden last year. They put Joe Biden next to Herbert. I mean, come on.
It goes back to the way they ran their cabinet, the way that they ran in the office, and you could hate the guy all you want. You can hate him all you want. Now I'm not one of those guys that's like we need him back in 2024. I would like to see more candidates and see what they also have. But of course, if he ran, he'd have my vote. If there was, obviously nobody. I think outside DeSantis, you know what I mean? But
60%. There's a poll showing 60% of Republicans favor Donald Trump. Trump is literally the Republican Party, whether you want to look at it or not. He is literally the leader of the Republican Party. 60% of them want Trump back in the White House in 2024. Like the 40%. Those are your turncoats. Those are your Liz Cheney, your now, sadly, Michael Pence. You just noticed recently, Michael Pence coming out, made public statements saying that Trump literally thought I had the power to overturn the election. Well, Trump was wrong. Should have Pence done that? No, I think that kind of damaged his career as a politician by making a public statement such as that. I don't think. Go ahead.
A lot of these career politicians had to distance themselves from him because that's what they are, career politicians. They're useless. They're useless. They're useless in politics, and they'd be useless out in the job field anywhere else. They've made their whole career based off of just shaking hands and promising people stuff. So I'm not surprised that he would make comments like that or turn his back on him. It's part of the game with these guys. This is what they do.
You got to remember, we can't shake hands anymore because we live in COVID era and, everybody's afraid of germs,
Well, if we sit down at the dinner table, we could shake hands when our
you shake hands like a man. Hey, buddy, how you doing? We don't do that kind of silly dilly, what is it? The elbow bump,
Yeah, whatever. I'm over that. But I
mean, come on. I seen that shit. I was like, are you kidding me, man? Shake my hand. Oh, no, you could have COVID. I could die from heart disease or fucking diabetes tomorrow, man. Are we talking about that? Come on now.
I think the bigger question is, as we get closer to the election, how many people are going to jump ship from the left and come on over to the right?
Jimmy, we're seeing a lot. Yeah, we're seeing a lot, man. We're seeing a lot. If you paid attention to the blue states, they are lifting the the mask mandates, and the vaccine requirements. They're lifting it. They're literally they're like you said, they're jumping ship. They're abandoning their leader Joe Biden at the helm. They're saying, you know what, it's not working because we all know, Jimmy, they lost. They're losing in the midterms. I think the House is going to switch. You're going to see a Republican House.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm hoping for, and living in New Jersey, let's face it, we have one of the biggest henchmen for Biden here in the state. We've
Oh
got
my God! Don't get me started with Murphy. Yeah.
we've got the clown. You don't have to live in the state to really just have a bad taste in your mouth because of him. And he's going to be lifting, I think, the mandates sometime in March.
Oh,
But
is he really?
yeah, I mean, they had to follow suit. Now New York is a Hochul, right? She's going to follow suit with what he's doing because people just don't give a shit no more at this point. I mean,
What?
people are fed up with how things have been run. They're fed up with the fact that there's just no data behind anything. And
Yeah.
I think most people are just kind of like, I always see these memes and it's hilarious. It's like not vaccinated, I'm still here.
Yeah.
So the arguments for everything is they're running out of arguments. So it's almost like every single time they bring out something new, people are now questioning it to a point where they don't have an answer. So now you watch the news and there's new variant. We're going to war because they have to keep you constantly distracted because when you start using your brain, things start to make sense.
Jimmy, you make a good point. We're running low on time. We got about another 4 minutes left on the show. You bring up the point, the distraction, right? Here is the main, right? Is that what you said, the distraction?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the main part of the distraction. Okay. And before I get to that, Jimmy, I've been saying this since March of 2020. Everybody's been looking at me like I was nuts. You're a conspiracy theorist, Mike. No, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm a realist. I see things for what they are. Maybe I have a gift in this. I don't know. But I've been thinking like this since I was a little boy. And to this day, I still think the same way. I've been calling the shots on this whole COVID crap since March of 2020, 2 years ago, right? Well, going on 2 years. This March will be 2 years, right? So I've been saying that every 4 to 8 years, there's a pandemic, or what I've called on my shows a plandemic, because that's what they really are, a plandemic. It's all a master plan for their big agenda. Okay, it's laid to us to figure out what the agenda really is. Now, I've been saying in the beginning about this plandemic that the COVID was a distraction for what they're trying to do. The distraction is to divide the country, to create the fear, and then if the fear doesn't work, the threat comes in. And that's where we are right now. We're in like stage 3 of this whole plan. And the threats are now coming in, right? Saying that, and we're just about through the threats, where if you don't get the vaccine and you don't do this, you're going to lose your job. We went through all those stages. Now we're at the end of it. The fear mongering went away. The threats are just about away, right? You're seeing the lifts of the mandates. You're seeing the lifts of the vaccines. All of them, even the blue states are doing it because they know that they can't. They lost, Jimmy. They know. They're doing it now more to secure their reelection, to secure the House, for the House to stay blue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we don't have much time, but what I'd like to kind of say to everyone is, stand up for what you believe in, even if people want to say you're wrong for it. If you believe in it and you believe it to be right, stand up for what you believe in, and also, prepare yourselves for anything. Just like a quote from Benjamin Franklin, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So what I would say is, prep, learn new things, train, keep your mind clean, and read, and obviously listen to the Patriot Angle, and you'll be set.
Oh, absolutely, Jimmy. I couldn't agree more with you. Buddy, I want to thank you very much, man. It's been a great hour having you on the show. Got into a lot of good topics with the NFL, the Super Bowl, got into the January 6th event. Been a great hour, man, talking politics with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me back on, and look forward to coming on again.
Yeah, man, you're always welcome, guys. You just heard Jimmy Dev, great friend of the podcast and a great friend of myself, too. Thanks a lot, Jimmy.
All right, take it easy.
All right, take it easy.
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to today's podcast. We hope you liked it and you learned something from it. Hope to see you on the next one. Anchor Network, a Spotify company.